will kind of get you guys to disagree a little bit, is the climate change and oil's effect on the climate, potentially. Alaska is the only Arctic state in the nation, as we all know, and we see the effects of climate change faster than anyone else in the Union. How do Alaskans reconcile our dependence on oil and our responsibility to the environment?
Start with Professor.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not a scientist. I don't know what to think about, the whole science of climate change. I read the East Anglia scandal. I read the emails that somebody posted and showed that there was really, academic malfeasance going on there, and that they were cooking the books to try. And you could see how the incentives were aligned to really falsify the conclusions. So that really bothered me, and I haven't gotten over that one. I was generally open and to the possibility that human influence is causing global warming and climate change and all that stuff. But after that, I decided I don't think I really want to accept everything that I hear from them hook, line, and sinker. Now, the fact that people are saying that that it is affecting Alaska in tangible ways, and that perversely it actually might even help us, because we could have deep water ports built on the North Slope, which would really help us. If we could ship natural gas from a deep water port on the North Slope, that means we could keep it in the ground when the price is low and ship it out, when the price is high, and maximize our return on investing in natural gas extraction up there. So maybe it'll help us and open up those ports for us, and also help in intercontinental trade. I will say that I'm involved with, all right, this isn't public, but it will be soon. I'm sort of involved in the Niskanen Center. I'm writing for them. They're trying to kind of save the Republican Party from itself, and they are a very pro-climate change policy institute in Washington, D.C. And so those good people over there are engaged in dialogue. They have a different approach. It's more free market, and I suppose I'd be open to that. And I'm open to the possibility that humans are having a significant effect on climate change. I just, after that, I've seen that fraud and a few others. I've not been ready to just take anybody's word for it. So there you have it.
So
FD, take your best shot.
Sure, climate change is real, and it's being caused by humans, and it's not particularly advanced science. There was a climatologist I heard speak a couple nights ago who said this is basically middle school science, and the vast majority of scientists all over the world have accepted this at this point. His name is Brian, I think it's Brett Schneider, I can't pronounce his last name, but his Twitter is @climate49 or climatologist49. I really recommend people will follow him. He's a climatologist here in Alaska. And it is the case that here in Alaska, we can see the effects of climate change much more directly than a lot of other places, right? We have wildfires this summer. We have salmon dying in our rivers that they think might be related to it. We have melting permafrost. I mean, you have indigenous records where people are saying, we can tell that things are noticeably warmer now than they were not too long ago. And Professor Nabors is right that in the short term, it might be the case, or medium term, might be the case that there are some economic benefits to Alaska. But, I mean, you can't eat money, right? And at the end of the day, if we destroy and we contribute to the destruction of the entire world's climate, and all the disruption that comes from that, the trillions of dollars that will come from that, that is something that I don't think we can live with. And so it gets back to your earlier question. How do we, as Alaskans, when we know we are contributing to this problem, how do we stop contributing? And part of it is at the local level, you can do things like the Climate Action Plan, but ultimately the biggest impact that Alaska could have would be to send 2 senators to the US Senate that are not climate change deniers. We send one, we have another one where I think the jury is still out. To do that, we have to diversify our economy.
Sir.
The oil is, I'll put it this way, whenever there's an issue where they need to have somebody be moderate, there's only one senator anybody calls, okay? And so what was I saying? We need to diversify the economy so that we are not so dependent on oil. Mm-hmm. The other thing is, alternative energy is rapidly developing, right? We are sitting on an asset that might rapidly decrease in value very soon. We don't know when, but there's a chance that the world that has almost every major political party in the entire world has accepted the human causal relationship to climate change. The Republican Party in the United States is the only major party that seems to deny it, at least in the Democratic world, right? And they, when the rest of the world says, no, we are for real moving away from fossil fuels, that could significantly impact our asset. So we need to be trying to diversify, not only because it's the right thing to do, not only because of the perverse effects that Professor Nabors talked about, having oil be our only major economic force, but also because it'll free us politically to start having some of the hard conversations, whether they're market-based or regulatory-based, about reducing overall carbon emissions in the country. And that, by its nature, is going to reduce the amount of oil that people are going to want, and that's going to harm our bottom line if we do not diversify our economy.
So in the short term, should Alaskan policymakers aim to incentivize oil companies to come up here, or what?
Yeah, I would say yes with natural gas. With oil, it's a little bit harder. I mean, our economy right now is so dependent on oil that there's no question in the short and even to medium term that we have to have oil companies be a major part of our economy.
So let's take that point, and it's kind of the root of my question. How do you reconcile those two? How can you?
Yeah.
You said short and medium term.
Yeah.
We should create policy that incentivizes at least natural gas.
Yeah.
Still fossil fuel.
Right.
Can it be reconciled? Is it something that has to be? We just have to bite the bullet and preach that we fight for climate change initiatives while making investments in fossil fuels, or?
I think at the local and state level, we can do things to reduce our own carbon output, and we are doing things like converting to LED. Yeah. At the national level, there hasn't been a statewide candidate yet that's been able to run on a platform of, no, we are for real going to take action on climate change and win. And that means local and state politicians have to work to diversify the economy so we can eventually get there. Because right now, it is actually the case that is, if you, the Green New Deal, if you did something like that, it would devastate our economy. Sure. So we have to build an economy that wouldn't be devastated by that. Or we have to find, put the New Deal and the Green New Deal and make sure that Alaska is extremely well compensated so that we can get through the transition period.
From the federal government, I assume?
Yeah.
During that transition. How do you feel about a federal subsidy of Alaska to curb climate change, if that's a fair way to put what you just said?
I like economic incentives. I like using honey, not vinegar. It's a more effective way of getting stuff done. Then you don't have bitter political campaigns over whose pound of flesh is going to have to pay for this policy. That's why I like the Niskanen Center's approach, and you might too. See, I'm nudging you towards the Republican side of things.
Aren't they more like libertarian? Niskanen Center?
Yeah, they are. Yeah. I mean,
I don't think the Republican Party is libertarian anymore, but that would be a different conversation.
Well, I know, but that's what they're trying to.
Right.
Yeah, these are trying to sort of reform the Republican Party from within.
Sure.
But they do take climate. I mean, they left Cato because of their differences of opinion with them on such things like climate, because they said, "Hey, climate change is real.
Sure.
We got to, and we got to do something about it. And true to libertarian principles, we need to come up with solutions that use incentives, market-based incentives, and that kind of thing. So that's what they really want to work on. And I would be, and I would be in favor of that, not simply because, of the because it's more effective. I mean, if you appeal to people's self-interest, if you can find ways to appeal to people's self-interest,
but how do you do that?
You have a better.
I mean, you have to. There's an external cost associated with carbon output. So how do you build that price into any kind of market?
Right. Well, I think the carbon tax system that they had proposed was one. I mean, in a sense, I mean that idea was a really nice idea.
Sure.
And it never got implemented. But I mean, it was a creative way of using financial incentives
Sure.
to get people to, mind their carbon emissions, and that is a way of kind of using market forces in your favor. And I think that's much better.
You're saying market forces, but it would have to be the government that restructured the market in order to do
I hear what you're saying. Yeah, I know.
Or at least provide the subsidy.
So please, entrepreneurs, we need entrepreneurs to start inventing stuff
Sure.
that takes oil out of the game.
But what you just said, I mean, if you take oil out of the game, where does that leave Alaska?
Well, how about carbon capture?
I have an idea. How about you triple the funding to the University of Alaska at Anchorage?
I agree.
We will research it, discover that,
Sure.
and then we'll make oil go away, and we'll become fabulously wealthy, and everybody will be happy.
When I was in grad school, they did a congressional simulation where I played the congressperson from Alaska, which is kind of funny. And the bill that I got through, and this was 10 years ago, would have opened ANWR and then taken all of the revenue and put it into an Arctic Energy Research Center at the University of Alaska, like billions of dollars.
Oh, geez.
And right, and
please.
And I got it passed because it was just a.
Well, actually, I mean, let's. Do you mind if we segue into this for a second?
Go ahead.
Because actually, I'm serious. We're about to start producing oil again. I mean, the spigot's going to come back on. We think, right? I mean,
What do you mean? It's already on.
Well, I know, but I mean, the number of barrels of oil per day is going to start rising.
I mean,
again,
maybe
we think.
Sean Parnell told us we'd have $1 million.
2 years, 3 years. Well, we've had a bunch of permitting and exploration, and they're going to hopefully go into production in a couple of years or 3 years. If that happens, I would like a pledge from you, Mr. Politician, that you will do everything you can to this time to have a share of the oil revenue go into university endowment.
Like University of Texas.
Like University of Texas. Sure. Absolutely.
I would absolutely.
That has been killing us.
Yeah.
You know, our endowment is $200 million for this university. You know what the University of Texas is? $26 billion.
Yeah.
And, you know, our permit fund, not all of it went into that. We didn't really set money aside for the university. If we had done that, our university wouldn't be going through this crisis right now.
I would absolutely agree to that. But we need people on the conservative side of the aisle to agree to a restructuring of production taxes, because even though we are getting more barrels, we are getting far less revenue per barrel than we got, under ACEs or even before that. So, and we're going to get even less because these new fields are taxed in a different way, where at some point we're actually paying them to I mean, we still get our royalty share, but we are not getting enough revenue from this oil. So I would absolutely commit to that. You need to commit to allowing us to restructure our oil tax system so that Alaskans get a fair share.
I'll shake on that.
Yeah. Even though neither of us has any real direct influence on this, at least not right now.
No, not right now.